Hello, and welcome to this training from the IRQTC on how to supercharge your Tai Chi for Balance programs. I'm Brian Trascos, founder and director of the Institute for Rehabilitative Qigong and Tai Chi. So a couple years ago, there was a study done it's a meta-analysis study, which means they looked at 54 programs or papers or research projects specifically designed around balance. And when they looked at all these programs and research, they were able to extrapolate or distill out from those programs the qualities that most enhanced balance as part of their outcomes. And these are what are called best practices. And the interesting thing is that these best practices align themselves in many ways naturally with what happens during Tai Chi. However, once we understand these best practices, we can further leverage them within our Tai Chi programs, especially if we're working with people for balance enhancement to really help them boost their outcomes. So one of the very first best practices that came from all this research was the idea that we would like to decrease the base of support. For many people with balance issues, there is a wide base of support. The wider the base of support, the more stability that we can see. However, with the wider base of support, we also see less mobility. So it's harder to move out of this position with the wider base of support, even though you're more stable. Okay, now the other extreme of there, of course, is that here, with feet right together, there's less stability here. However, there's more mobility here. And both mobility and stability are critically important for people to have better functional balance. So again, the best practice recommendation is to slowly reduce the base of support so that we're continuing to challenge the mobility or challenge the stability system and enhance the mobility within what the person's capabilities are. So Tai Chi naturally does this. Because with Tai Chi, we're naturally doing, stepping programs in and then out, and then in, and then out. And of course, these natural stepping programs are a part of our rehabilitative Tai Chi program for balance enhancement and falls prevention. They may not necessarily be a part of all Tai Chi programs, but they certainly are part of our rehabilitative Tai Chi programs. Where the idea is that we're making the base of support smaller, and then wider, and then smaller, and then wider as a best practice. Now that could mean stepping closer together. It could mean stepping across the front a little bit more, what we call tandem stance. But in some way, shape, or form, we're looking to decrease the base of support to challenge the balance system. Okay, next best practice had to do with moving the center of gravity. So very, very important to do that. Now, what would moving the center of gravity look like? Well, it would look like essentially a weight shifting task. So weight shifting to one side, weight shifting to the other side, or weight shifting forward and weight shifting back. Now, some people do this just simply with a reaching task, reaching to the side, which would add in that weight shift with the center of gravity. But again, this is naturally part of our Tai Chi programs. When we do even things like cloud hands, we are moving the center of gravity to one side and then moving the center of gravity to the other side. So naturally, we're using these best practices as part of our Tai Chi and Qigong programs. Okay? Now, the third best practice idea was to slowly decrease hand support. So if people are using walkers to do things, what we want to start to do is start to pull a little support away from the walker, which again further challenges the system so that people don't become so dependent on their assistive devices. Right? That dependency on the assistive device lowers their ability to naturally compensate for perturbations that come in from the environment. So that may mean taking one hand off the walker. It may mean slowly just putting fingertips on the walker or the countertop or something of that nature, but we're slowly drawing away upper extremity support in order to further challenge the system. Now, of course, our rehabilitative Tai Chi program for balance enhancement is what we call progressive in nature. So it moves from sitting to standing to stepping to walking. And through that progressive process, we're meeting each one of these best practices for balance. When we start off in sitting, we are learning the movements in a way that is very safe and feels supportive for people. And of course, we're doing the weight shifting, those types of things. As we do that, we're taking away the upper extremity support, obviously, when we're doing the sitting kinds of things. And then when we move from sitting to standing, we are taking away a base of support, right? Because now they're moving from sitting to standing. And then on top of that, again, building the center of gravity rotation or movement, as well as then the upper extremity support, if they can do that with one hand on the walker or that nature of things. So we're naturally, again, enhancing best practices into our rehabilitative Tai Chi for balance enhancement programs. All right, now the next idea, the next best practice was to make your balance programs dynamic in nature. They have to be dynamic in nature. Well, one thing that we would traditionally do in rehabilitation settings was to have people stand and do something we called rhythmic stabilization, where we said, don't let me move you. And we would try to push them and they brace against it and stay there. Well, that's a stability program. It's not dynamic in nature. What the best practices have highlighted for us is that dynamic movement programs happen to have better outcomes on balance testing after the research. Again, naturally a part of our Tai Chi programs. And then finally, and some people aren't going to want to hear this one, but the idea is that you have to practice whatever you're doing at a minimum of 2 hours per week. So anything less than 2 hours per week in the research shows minimal changes with balance enhancement. 2 hours per week seem to be the threshold for really making changes in your balance. So again, the best practices are slowly reduce the base of support, do activities or programs that shift the center of gravity, slowly take away upper extremity support if we really want to enhance balance, do dynamic programs, and practice something at least 2 hours a week in order to really enhance your balance. Again, I would encourage you to check out our Rehabilitative Tai Chi for Balance Enhancement Specialist Certification Training that's coming up at the end of October. We have taken these best practices, built them into our Rehabilitative Tai Chi program to make sure that we're not only accessing the body holistically for healing, for whole body healing, but we're also using research basis to really help people stay on their feet and lead more meaningful and purpose-filled lives. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the best training. Take care. Bye-bye.